this is Ken. Today we're going to be talking about low-fidelity wireframes. This is Ken and you're watching Mastering UX. Okay, I want to put together this episode because one of the things that I've been noticing is that low-fidelity wireframes just seem to be used less by designers these days. And I think one of the reasons why this is happening is because the design tools that we have gotten so efficient at producing high fidelity wireframes that we may not feel the need to do what's called rapid prototyping, which is aka low fidelity wireframes. Well, in this episode, I wanted to let you know that I do agree that high fidelity design has become a lot more efficient. I particularly love the tools that are out, Figma and Sketch, and there's so many advancements that have been made for us to be able to focus on the solution and even a high fidelity solution. I use these tools, and sometimes I use these tools from the get-go, right? Starting off with a project, and sometimes I even start doing high fidelity. But what I did want to remind us all of is that there still is a very important need to still do low fidelity wireframes, not because of efficiency in the process, or I should say efficiency in execution. But it's really important because the process of doing low fidelity wireframes is something that allows us to achieve something because of what we're not doing. See, as UX designers, we're ones that care particularly about the solution. We focus in on what I call is the peanut of the M&M. It's the core. What is the hierarchy? What are the elements that should be on the page? Should they be a lot of images or should there be a lot of text? What kind of navigational structures should the site have? So all these kind of things are something that by going to low fidelity wireframes first, they allow us to not have to worry about the other things so that we can focus in on the core of the solution. Well, I'm giving you some anecdotal things that I've been thinking about, but I also wanted to do a little bit of research and present you with some kind of Google Trend stats that I came up with. And it's very interesting. So over the last 10 years, the query UX has been searched 340%, or I should say it's grown 340%. And I think that might be some representation that the topic, the interest around UX has grown about 340% over the last 10 years. UX research, it's actually grown even more. It's grown 500% or 5 times more. And then UX wireframes, take a guess on where those are. Well, they didn't decline, but they're actually completely flat, which I would say proportional to the amount of UX designers that have been added to the industry. It's actually declined in interest. So that was very interesting to me. So I want to give you 5 reasons why I think that low fidelity wireframes are still valuable in this in 2022 with all the efficiencies that we've achieved. So number 1 is that low fidelity wireframes, it really helps you get started. Because you're not having to worry about copy and branding and colors and styles, and you might get hung up on a lot of things that you heard that we shouldn't be doing, things we need to be cautious about, and they might be legitimate feedback that you need to use for later on in the project. But by being limited to, say, pen and paper, you're, say, sketching on a grid and you've got black and white, and by being limited to this form, and you're probably not going to want to write out all the copy, this allows you to just stay focused on, what should the structure, in terms of form, and also the structure in terms of hierarchy, the information architecture. You're able to go ahead and just get started on these kind of core elements. Number 2, it's kind of, I'm already jumping into it, and that's the matter of, because you're not worrying about certain things, it helps you stay focused on the things that are the most foundational matters. Things such as, what's the big idea? What is the concept? Does this feel right? Labels are a big one to me. I feel that, a lot of user experience can be kind of really stifled by the wrong labels. So you're able to kind of focus in on these very core elements, again, that peanut of the M&M. I wanted to give you an example. My son, he did this kind of pastel painting. I love it. He did it when he was 18 years old. And I remember that to get to this pastel, he had to kind of do some rework and kind of do some resketching. And, sketching's a very interesting thing is, you kind of see that, artists will kind of sketch and there's not one distinct line, kind of like a comic book has this kind of one key line. You'll kind of see that, artists will do the sketching and it's very vague and it might get a little bit darker where the real shape is. And they're kind of, as they're going through the process, they're really kind of realizing what the shape of that drawing should be. Well, this particular kind of picture, it's challenging because it's got perspective. There's kind of the emotion and the feeling and the kind of the tensity of the hand and how it's arced, all these different things that have a certain kind of emotion, which really are pending upon the structure of the underlying thing. And so this is kind of what I feel like low fidelity wireframing gives us. We're sketching, it's not vivid. And even the fact that it's vague kind of helps us, continue to feel like there's more room to shape it. The number three is that not only does it help us, it also helps reviewers. So reviewers are able to stay focused on what you want them to be focused in on. A lot of times I really don't want to get opinions about the colors, the design, the brand, or I don't particularly like this certain kind of style too early in the project. I really want to be focused. Do we get the solution right? Is there anything that we're missing? Do you agree that there should be this many images on the page, or that there should be videos that you'll be able to assess? Do you think we can make the videos, and have those kind of discussions for the reviewers early on? And then when we're doing usability studies, again, be focused in on the structural elements before we proceed on. So it's a real tool to me in this kind of way. I will put this little caveat. When you are showing wireframes to customers, you're really going to want to make sure that the fidelity of your wireframes is not so low that it stumbles the person. They can't imagine, we can imagine sometimes what sketches might turn out to be, but if it just has all lorem ipsum copy, and they may just kind of wonder what they're even looking at. So take the fidelity of your wireframes to the level that won't stumble your audience. They'll be clear on what the solution is and what they're looking at. Number three is that it helps, or I should say number four, is that it helps me when I'm presenting the design, whether it's to the business or whether it's to the customer. It helps me stay more objective as I'm presenting. If I start off kind of asking for feedback on a high fidelity design, a lot of times I put a lot of work and even I put a lot of emotional investment into the way that this design feels. Sometimes I almost feel like it's this kind of pouring out process. And I think that's just the way creativity is, right? Well, by going with objective things that are on wireframes and it's just focusing in on the solution, I'm able to get feedback on just the solution. Again, it's just the navigation, and as I'm going through the process, my feelings aren't hurt at all, because I feel like a lot of times these are labels I have no idea if they're right. I just know that it makes sense to the business. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm interested in, what do you feel, Mr. Customer? It's interesting. When you're doing usability studies, you'll find that you really can't. If you're showing a lot of things and there's things that maybe are bothering someone, they actually can't see sometimes the underlying problems to the website. Steve Krug in Don't Make Me Think references this, and he talks about sometimes you need to remove some kind of element so that you can see the next element that's maybe more specific or more detailed. And so wireframes, by removing a lot of kind of information, it could be, of course, artistic information, visual design, colors, removing these kind of elements, it kind of ensures that you're going to get the more important structural feedback up front. Okay, so number 5 is that there's sometimes that you're working with multiple designers, and you also want to make sure that you're being able to leave room for creativity, leave some open-endedness for the next person who's going to take this design to the next level. Okay, so I just want to say that I'm not a person who is insisting on one process for every project. I really believe that you should look at every project as an opportunity to consider what exact tools, aka processes, what methodologies that you would like to use to arrive to the particular problem that you're trying to solve. And so I don't want to say that you should always do low fidelity wireframes, but what I will say is that they definitely need to be a staple in our toolbox. It's something that we should always be doing. It's something that it really helps me moving forward. And I want to leave you off with is don't be lured too much into the idea of efficiency. If you think about it, do we really spend our time executing all the time? A lot of times we're really wasting a lot of times, or we're stuck, or we're kind of looking at all these other places. It's not really effective. And so if you can just kind of get the wheels turning, kind of like a London turning circle, the traffic can flow a lot faster, even though it's a longer distance that you need to travel around that road, because you keep it flowing. As long as the ideas are flowing, and you're able to generate more by doing less, this is something that's actually going to help you move faster. Something else I want to say is that we should remember that as designers, we really want to be those who are willing to explore, willing to redo, willing to make a separate process to be able to even generate new concepts and new versions of things. Because if we're not the ones as creatives that are doing this, then who is? So these are the things I wanted to leave you off with, and why I really feel that low fidelity wireframes must remain as a staple in your toolkit. So there you have it. I'll see you on the next episode.